Chapter 1: A Quiet Place. Nestled deep in the forests of northern Minnesota lies Fog Lake. A serene, remote patch of water barely known beyond the handful of people who've lived near it for generations. The town closest to it, Carver's Hollow, isn't even marked on most maps. It's the kind of place where you can hear your own heartbeat, where the trees are tall, and the fog never really lifts. In October 2014, something happened at Fog Lake that would break the stillness forever. A 23-year-old woman named Heather Granger vanished without a trace. She wasn't a local. She was a photographer from Duluth, known for her landscapes and eerie compositions. She had posted on Instagram just 2 days before she disappeared, saying she was headed north to chase the mist. It would be her final post. Chapter 2: The Missing. When Heather failed to return calls from her friends or family, her sister Lily filed a missing persons report. By then, she had already been gone for over 48 hours. Police traced her route using her phone's GPS. It led them to an abandoned ranger's cabin near the edge of Fog Lake. A place with no cell signal, no electricity, and no signs of recent habitation. Her car was found nearby, locked, keys still in the ignition, with her backpack and camera gear inside. Oddly, her wallet and phone were missing. Locals said they saw her once, checking into the old Fog Lake Lodge, a crumbling resort from the 1950s that had been closed for nearly a decade. No one could explain how she got in. Chapter 3: The Cabin. The ranger's cabin was cold, the windows fogged over, and it smelled of damp cedar and something else. Something sour. Inside, police found a series of strange items: a torn photograph pinned to the wall showing a blurred face, a spiral notebook filled with sketches of trees and what looked like shadowy figures, and a pair of muddy hiking boots left by the door. But there was no sign of Heather. Chapter 4: Local Legends. Fog Lake has long been the subject of local legends. The Ojibwe spoke of spirits in the pines, watchful beings who protected the land but demanded silence and respect. One tale, repeated by many, was that of the whistler in the trees, a sound that only came when someone was alone in the woods. Some believe Heather may have crossed into something old. Something that didn't want to be photographed. Chapter 5: Unsolved Threads. Over the following weeks, search crews scoured the lake and nearby woods. Drones flew overhead. Divers entered the freezing water. Nothing was found, not Heather, not her phone, not even footprints past the cabin. But then a strange call came in to the Duluth Police Department. A man, voice distorted, claimed he had seen the girl, and she was still in the trees. The call was untraceable. A week later, Heather's Instagram reactivated and posted a single image, a close-up of pine bark, with blood smudged across it. Her family insists it wasn't her. Chapter 6: Patterns. Digging through old missing person reports, a pattern began to emerge. Every 7 to 10 years, someone disappeared near Fog Lake. Always in October. Always alone. Always found, or never found, near the trees. One man, a former park ranger named Jesse Rollins, tried to tell his story in 1996. He claimed he had found something unnatural in the woods, something that watched. Days later, he was found drowned in Fog Lake, though he was an expert swimmer. His journal was never recovered. Chapter 7: The Photograph. 1 year after Heather's disappearance, a hiker near Fog Lake found something jammed into a crevice of a tree, an undeveloped roll of film wrapped in waterproof cloth. When processed, one photo stood out. a blurry silhouette standing just beyond the tree line, watching. Behind it, faint but visible, was what looked like Heather's scarf. And her eyes. Experts said the film was overexposed and damaged. Others said it was doctored. But her sister Lily never stopped believing it was real. Chapter 8, The Return. In 2020, nearly 6 years later, Heather returned. Or rather, something did. A woman was found walking along a logging road 14 miles from Fog Lake, barefoot, wearing clothes that matched Heather's last known outfit. She gave no name, didn't speak, and her fingerprints were inconclusive. DNA testing stalled due to contamination. She was placed in a psychiatric hospital, labeled a Jane Doe. But Lily visited her and swore, "That's my sister." The woman only said one thing, over and over. "Don't go into the trees." Chapter 9, Questions that Remain. Was it really Heather? Where had she been for 6 years? Why didn't she remember or couldn't say? What had happened? And what is it about Fog Lake that keeps calling people back? Locals still avoid the woods at night. The cabin has been boarded up. But some say you can still hear the whistling, if you listen hard enough, and if you're alone. Some disappearances are crimes. Others are something older. Something buried beneath pine needles, wet earth, and time. Chapter 10, The Hospital Files. The woman found near Fog Lake, who Lily swore was her sister Heath, was placed under intensive psychiatric evaluation at the Carver County Medical Facility, a small, aging institution just outside Duluth. She remained unresponsive for days, eating only when prompted and sleeping in short, restless bursts. Her vitals were normal. No signs of dehydration, exposure, or trauma, at least, not physical. But brain scans revealed something unusual. Her amygdala, the brain's emotional processing center, was hyperactive, as if she had been living in a constant state of fight or flight for years. More disturbingly, she reacted violently to images of forests or fog. Even the word pine made her shake. Doctors made note of this but didn't understand it. One neurologist, Dr. Miriam Coates, wrote in her file, "This is not amnesia. This is something else. She remembers, but she can't process it." Then one night, the woman woke up screaming. Not just a scream, a howl. Security cameras showed her clawing at the window, mouthing something repeatedly. "Take me back. Take me back." But when staff entered her room, she had no memory of it. Chapter 11, The Archive Tapes. In an effort to learn more, Lily began digging into the Fog Lake archive, old police reports, ranger logs, and oral histories collected by a local librarian named Curtis Bellamy, who had lived in Carver's Hollow his entire life. In the back room of the tiny public library, under dust and cobwebs, Lily discovered a box labeled simply, "Lake Disappearances, 1951 to 2002. Inside were reel-to-reel audio tapes, dozens of them, each marked with a name and date. Among them was one labeled Jesse Rollins, October 1996. Jesse was the ranger who had allegedly seen something in the woods, only to be found dead in the lake days later. Lily had it digitized. The voice on the tape was ragged, panicked, whispering. "I saw it again. Same tree line. It doesn't walk. It moves between the spaces. The pines, they open up for it. Like they want it to be there. I tried to mark the trail with red string, but the next day, it was gone. Not cut. gone like it was never tied. The trees don't want you to leave once you're in. I keep hearing the whistling. And it's getting closer. Then static. The tape ended with what sounded like heavy breathing. Or wind. But Lily noticed something else, just barely audible in the background, layered beneath Jessie's voice. A whisper. Stay out of the trees. Chapter 12, The Pines That Watch. Determined to find answers, Lily returned to Fog Lake. Not to the cabin or the lodge, but to the woods. She brought with her a forest tracker named Michael Vance, who had trained with search and rescue teams across the Midwest. He was skeptical at first. That changed quickly. About 3 miles into the forest, Lily and Michael came across something not marked on any map, a stone circle, roughly 10 feet wide, half buried in moss and leaves. Around the edge were tiny piles of bones, small animals, perhaps birds, and in the center, a depression in the ground, like a fire pit long extinguished. Michael noted that the trees around the circle were twisted, not just bent, but contorted unnaturally, as though warped by heat or force. Pine bark scarred by something sharp. Scratches too high for any animal. And then Lily heard it. The whistling. She froze. Michael couldn't hear it at first, but when he did, he turned pale. That's not the wind, he said. They left in silence, both feeling watched. And when Lily reviewed the GPS trail that night, she noticed something chilling. Their recorded path didn't return in a straight line. They had been walking in a perfect circle. Chapter 13, The Lodge Opens. The old Fog Lake Lodge had long been considered condemned. Shut down after a boiler explosion in the 1970s, left to rot. But in 2021, a real estate firm bought the land, unaware of its history. Plans to renovate the property quickly stalled. Workers reported tools disappearing overnight. Entire rooms rearranged. One contractor claimed he saw a woman in white walking down the hallway, only to vanish through a wall. The crew walked off the job. The lodge was left partially demolished, stripped down to its bones. Lily got in using a contact from the sheriff's department. Inside, she found remnants of something unexpected, Heather's camera lens cap, marked with her initials. Tucked into a broken floorboard was a single Polaroid photo. It showed a shadow, long and unnatural, stretching toward the lens. Behind it, the outline of a face. No eyes. Just the impression of something, watching. The timestamp? October 17, 2014. The day Heather disappeared. Chapter 14, The Whispering Map. Back at home, Lily began connecting the dots. Disappearances over time, strange weather patterns, topography. She mapped each case going back to 1951. When pinned on the wall, a chilling pattern emerged. A spiral. Every incident curved toward a central point, the deepest part of Fog Lake, where the pines grew in tight, unnatural rows, some spiraling upward like corkscrews. That's when Lily remembered a story her grandmother told her as a child. About the Pine Gate. A place in the forest where the world thinned. And something ancient waited on the other side. Not a person. Not an animal. Something that remembered when people feared the trees. And punished those who forgot.